Welcome to r/MaliciousCompliance. In today's stories, the most expensive phone calls on the planet. Want to charge me an extra $50 for something that should have been included in the overall price? It's fine, just give me what I paid for. Don't blast heat in the winter. And finally, store manager basically tells our retail sales manager to let a woman kidnap a dog. What is up guys, I do hope you're well, and if you enjoy Reddit stories, please don't forget to click that like, that subscribe button, and maybe even that notification bell, as it really keeps this channel moving on. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy today's stories. Our first story is from Ultrissa, the most expensive phone calls on the planet. Many years ago, more than 15, I worked as a programmer for an oil and gas automation company. This means we would design and build the computer systems for oil and gas plants, commission them, and support the operators during day-to-day operations. Because of this, my company ran a 24/7 support phone. Every week, a member of my team would get to the phone and be expected to be available to answer calls 24/7. We had enough people on the team that would roughly equate to getting the phone twice a year. Most of the employees on this company were salaried, and the 24/7 phone was written into their contract. For every phone call they took, they would charge a minimum of 1 hour in bank time. This was a good deal for them and made the 24/7 phone easier to handle. I was a little different than my co-workers in that I wasn't a salaried employee. I was an hourly contractor. My co-workers would bank their time and I would just get paid bi-weekly. My contract also stated that if I was being paid by the company, I had to be available exclusively to the company. This was added by their HR department because a few years before they caught an hourly contractor running side jobs for other businesses at his desk. This also meant that if they wanted me to be available exclusively to the company, they had to pay me for my time. For the 2 years I knew the 24/7 phone existed, but I had never had to take it because according to my contract, if they wanted me to be available, they had to pay my hourly rate after normal work hours to ensure that I was available to answer the phone when it rang. Then, as in most corporate stories, my completely awesome manager left for greener pastures and was replaced with an absolute tool. After a month of being in the office, he decided it wasn't fair that everyone took turns on the phone except for me. He declared that I would be put in the rotation effective immediately. I didn't want to cost the company a ton of money, so I tried to explain that if I'm on the 24/7 phone, that it means they have to pay me 24 hours a day for 7 days. He scoffed and told me I obviously didn't understand how the business worked. I told him he didn't understand how my contract was laid out, and that I'm an hourly contractor, not a salaried employee. He insisted that to be a better team player, I had better take the phone or look elsewhere for employment. I didn't want to seem like I wasn't a team player, so I accepted the phone and started my clock. 7 days later, I handed my phone off to the next guy and submitted my bi-weekly invoice. It came out to just over 10,000, with 8,400 being just that 1 week of having the phone. I waited about 15 minutes before I was pulled into the manager's office. When I arrived, the manager, the head of HR, and the manager's boss, the head of the department, were there with my most recent invoice sitting on the desk. The department head just looked at me and asked what the hell I was thinking when I gave him that invoice. I explained that the new manager insisted I take the 24/7 phone, even though my contract clearly stipulates that if the company wants me available 24/7, they have to pay me for every minute I have the phone. The new manager became redder with every word. When I was finished, the department manager turned to him and asked him why he didn't know this, since it's common knowledge that no contractors are ever put in that kind of position. As he was stuttering for an answer, the department head dismissed me and told me to expect my check at the usual time. The best part, during the entire week I had the 24/7 phone, it only rang twice, both during work hours and both calls asking for a specific person in the department. All I had to do was give them the phone number. Those 2 3-minute phone calls cost the company $4,200 each. After that, the new manager pretended I didn't exist and refused to talk to me for 3 months until he was moved into sales in a different department. I was at the company for another 2 years and never saw that phone again. And I shouldn't think so either, that is crazy. Imagine earning that much for just holding a phone. Oh, wow. That is insane money. I can just imagine that manager's face though, sat in the office while you're explaining this. How didn't he get the sack for that though? That's what I don't get. He'd be gone immediately for that sort of mistake. Holy shit. Our next story is from FUK Head 69. Want to charge me $50 for something that should have been included in the overall price? It's fine, just give me what I paid for. Yesterday, I broke my tooth. The nerve was exposed and the pain was excruciating. I had $150 to my name. I called 15 different dentist offices to see if they would help me out for $150. No one was willing to do it. Everyone's prices were $300 and up. I found one sketchy dentist office on the east side of Detroit. They said they would pull it for $150. I gave them my money at the front desk before they even gave me the paperwork. I finally got called back and the dentist told me that he could extract a tooth for $150, but the Novocaine shot would cost an extra $50. We went back and forth arguing a little bit, but he was firm on the extra $50 for the Novocaine shot. The pain was so bad I couldn't stand it anymore. I didn't have the extra $50, so I told him to just pull it without the Novocaine. I smacked myself in the face a couple of times to hype myself up, put on my crazy face and told him to pull it as fast as he could. He stood there with a dumb look on his face. I called his bluff. He told me I was crazy, he couldn't do it without the shot. I told him I already paid them and I want my tooth out now. Guess who got his tooth pulled with a complimentary Novocaine shot? To be fair, I would have pulled it without it though. I'd have sod you then, you're gonna get it. Our next story is from Electric Meow 33. Don't blast the heat in the winter. This happened a couple of years ago during my freshman year of college. I lived in an apartment dorm with 3 roommates. We had a kitchen, living room, our own bedrooms and 2 bathrooms with a killer skyline view. Now the dorm was kind of divided, literally and figuratively, and with the common areas in the middle, there were bedrooms and bathrooms on opposite sides. I got along very well with a roommate on my side, side A, and the other 2 sides got along great as well, side B. So throughout the first couple of months living there, both sides of my dorm began to have more and more issues with each other due to the vast lifestyle differences. The girl on side B was extremely religious and rarely left the dorm, and also made it very clear to me that they don't approve of my homosexual lifestyle. Whereas my side A roomie and I were always out in various social groups and partied, so again, vastly different. I went to college in the south, and it got cold in the winter, but typically hovered around 40 Fahrenheit, so really not that bad. We were discussing the beginning of the year to keep our thermostat at 72 degrees year round, so that everyone was happy. Well, one of the first nights it got really cold. I woke up drenched in sweat, in what felt like was a sauna. I get up to check the thermostat and it was set at 90 degrees. What kind of animal does that? In a rage, I dropped it to 55, the lowest setting, to get it cooled down as fast as possible, and figured I would bump it back to 72 in the morning and discuss with my roommates. Morning comes around and my side A roomie is equally pissed, so we had a meeting with side B and their excuse was, well, it's cold outside, sorry, it won't happen again. Oh, but it did. It kept happening for a week. I would wake up drenched in sweat and change it to 55, only to wake up again drenched in sweat with it set back to 90. Now, for where the malicious compliance comes into play, I was exhausted and at my wit's end, so I pulled a total Karen move and reached out to the RA. Now, I knew this ahead of time, but at my dorm if there are any disagreements on the thermostat, it'll be shut off to our unit completely, meaning no heating or AC until we reached a signed agreement. So I told the RA the issue, with my side A roomie being by my side. They shut off the air and gave us a new contract to sign regarding the thermostat, and to give it back to them by the end of the week. Since it was winter, this worked in my favour, because now there was no heat and I could deal with it being cold. I decided not to tell side B about this until they brought it to my attention that the heating wasn't working. By the very first night of no air, I get an aggressive knocking on my door by side B, demanding answers as to why there's no air. So I told them, well, since we couldn't come to an agreement, I went to RA and they had our unit turned off until the contract is signed with a new agreed temperature. We have 1 week to come up with it. They were pissed, but loved their heat so much, they agreed to sign it at 75 just to get the heat back on. I, however, told them that I need some time to think over what would be the ideal temperature and waited until the last day to sign, allowing them to suffer heat free for a week. Moral of the story, don't break a contract with your roomies that's agreed upon the first day of move in. That is so cruel, but so good. And today's final story is by Meefling. Store manager basically tells our retail sales manager to let a woman kidnap a dog. All the exciting things happen at work when I'm off. I'm recounting this from my co-workers and the store manager himself. A couple of days ago, there was a dog locked in a car parking lot. It was about 18C or 65F outside, but a dog locked in a car is still an alarming sight, especially during the summer. A customer brought this to our attention, and in her anger concern, told us if we didn't do something to rescue the dog, she would smash the window and take the dog herself. My coworker tells her obviously not to do that, and instead decides to call the license plate of the car over the PA for the owner of the car to come to the front. This lady comes up, and the first words out of her mouth are, "Did someone complain about the dog?" as my coworker explains the situation. The initial complainer and the dog owner recognise who each other are, loudly going at each other's throats right in front of the entrance, so any customers coming in or leaving get caught in the crossfires. This wasn't great for our business, and our store manager was upset that my co-worker's intervention led to such a massive public spat in our store. A couple of days later, something similar happened. Our retail sales manager, RSM, was coming back from her lunch break and saw a dog owner tying the leash of her dog to the bike rack. She left lots of slack available for the dog to sit, lay and walk in a decent sized circle. It was also about 18C or 65F on this day. The dog owner entered to shop for a bit. Shortly after this, an angry woman enters and demands the manager. RSM comes up and the woman says this dog has been out here for hours and that she walked her own dog this way earlier and saw this dog. Poor baby is miserable out there. RSM mentioned that she saw firsthand that the dog only been out there for about 5 minutes, which poked a big hole in this woman's story. The angry woman decides to escalate and says if we do nothing, she'll take matters into her own hands. RSM tells her she will handle it from there and thanks the woman for bringing the issue to her attention. RSM comes up with the idea to page the owner of the dog tied to the bike post to the front of the store. She was briefed on the parking lot issue days ago though, and decides to run her idea by the store manager. He says to her, "We can't get involved again. Last time, we caused a lot of frustration and trouble for our customers. We can't call the owner over the PA because it will happen again." RSM tried to tell him the lady's threat, that she was worried this lady was going to kidnap the dog or something. Store manager didn't care, told her that if she just complies, we'll have less trouble in the long run. And so, RSM decided not to page the dog owner and told the angry woman there's nothing we can do. The dog owner eventually comes to the front to cash out. Grand total of dog outside alone time was maybe 10 to 15 minutes, and she's only outside for a moment before she comes back inside in a panic. Turns out, RSM's hunch was right. This angry woman wasn't happy with her lack of action and promptly stole the dog. Now we have a sobbing woman in the front of the store crying loudly that someone has stolen their dog and generally souring the store and kind of freaking out the other customers. We live in a dog lovers neighbourhood. This was a huge deal to a lot of customers around her. We reviewed the security footage, got the angry woman's face and took the dog's owner's phone number to call if we ever saw her again. It was the most we could do, along with referring her to the police for theft. The next morning we get a call from the dog thief herself, who told us she'd taken the dog to a shelter and was shocked to see the baby was chipped, up to date on all their medicines, and was all over a very happy, healthy dog. The owner was called from the shelter and they were reunited. Our store manager was given so much grief over the two incidents that he completely rewritten our dog policy. They are now welcome in the store to prevent being locked in cars or tied up outside, and we will always page for the owner if the dog is left unattended outside. Moral of the story: don't think that just because something went wrong once, that it'll go wrong every time, especially when variables are unpredictable such as humans and dogs. We in the store all agreed that a small public spat between two uppity humans was way better than all the stress we inadvertently put on that poor doggy and owner under. Now I kind of get, I totally get people's concern for like dogs being left in cars and stuff, especially in heat, because you don't want to see dogs trapped in cars, especially on hot days, and obviously people get really on edge these days and they don't want to leave the dog just in case something happens, and I think that's fair enough. But this woman, I'm assuming it's the same woman 2 days in a row, sounds an absolute nut. Fair play that they changed their policy though. What would you do in that situation if you saw that dog? Would you take it, or would you just demand to find the owner? Or just totally leave it, of course. Once again, thank you so much for watching today. I really appreciate it. If you do get time to share or anything like that, it's much appreciated. Your time watching this video is what keeps me going. Your comments and all that kind of good stuff. It really, really keeps me pushing forward with the channel. Thank you so much. Take care now. Goodbye.